Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 14 of the Deus Ex Cinema podcast. I'm your host, Arron Kluz. With me is Sureyya Ucok.
Hi.
Marty Adams.
Hi.
And special guest, Macy Havlik.
Hello.
Oh, right. Soiled it.
All right, Sureyya, this was your movie, the third movie for our first drama rotation. Would you like to do a little bit of an introduction in it?
So we watched the 2006 or 2007... 2007 Atonement with Keira Knightley, James McAvoy, and some small roles by Benedict Cumberbatch. Oh my god.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
And Alfie Allen.
And Alfie Allen, fucking Theon Greyjoy.
Unrecognized. So I was thinking one thing maybe we should start doing before we get into the non-spoiler talk is maybe read a description for people who haven't seen the movie.
That's gonna give spoilers.
No, it's short.
You're supposed to read the summary before you watch it anyway, so you know what you're watching.
Yeah, I'm just reading the bland, one-sentence long IMDb description. So it says, fledgling writer Bryony Tallis, as a 13-year-old, irrevocably changes the course of several lives when she accuses her older sister's lover of a crime he did not commit. That is not spoilery at all.
When I first mentioned this in the previous podcast, you read the description from some other website and I was fucking ruined it.
Yeah,
I
but
was
that's
young and
assuming,
foolish.
that's assuming
Soiled
other
it.
people watched our last one, so it's fine.
Spoiled it!
So, Sureyya, it's your movie. Do you want to say impressions at all? If this was your first time, all that kind of stuff?
So I had previously watched this movie one other time with my mother, because my mom really enjoys, like, British romance kind of deals.
This movie's so fucking British.
I remember really liking it and being angry the first time I watched it, and this second time around, I didn't really remember much of it, and when certain things started happening, it brought back some of those painful memories, and it was very hard for me to keep my cool.
Well, no wonder you like this. It's by the same dude who did Pride and Prejudice.
I did not know that.
Well, he also did Darkest Hour.
I did not know that.
Anyways, Marty, your impressions, short thoughts at all?
I'm really torn on it, honestly. Because, like, at first I was pretty bored with it, and then it started to get kind of interesting, and I was starting to be, like, on board. I'd say, yeah, maybe I'll actually give it, like, a high rating. And then the ending just ruined it for me.
Yeah.
Not what happened in it, it's just how they handled it.
Okay.
You know, so we can talk about that later.
All right. Macy, any impressions?
Well, I kind of like movies like that are kind of like more realistic. Like that's something that you can really empathize with in a way. I don't know. That's.
So you thought the wizard was realistic when he popped up?
Well, absolutely.
When Gandalf came back as Gandalf the Red?
I hate you.
I like movies that pull empathy out of you.
Okay. I guess for me, I had never seen this before, and I was expecting to not like it whatsoever. Mostly, I guess I should establish my bias right out the gate here. I fucking hate Keira Knightley. Can't stand her. It's her mouth. There's something about like the way she moves her mouth when she talks. Yeah, it just pisses me off, and she just can't act. Her and Natalie Portman, but she's for another podcast.
What's the difference?
They were both in episode 1. What's the difference?
You made him question.
No, I remember. Okay.
Yeah, she was
Done.
Keira Knightley was one of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're the same person.
Yeah.
I guess for non-spoiler talk though, I will say it was better than I thought I would like it.
Yeah. I'm
I
with
didn't.
you on that one.
I don't know if I'd say I liked it. I don't think I would ever want to watch it again. But I'm not angry that I watched it.
Yeah.
Like there was no point in it where... What was that one movie that we watched, sorry, with Ralph Fiennes? Was that The Reader?
Oh, fuck.
I feel like that was The Reader.
The Reader?
But like there was... Yeah, The Reader. But I'm also going to bring that up later. But you know, like with watching that, I felt that movie was really similar to this one in a lot of ways. And there were multiple points in that movie where plot points would hit, and I just want it to be over.
Mm-hmm.
And I never hit that with this, but I don't think I would ever want to watch it again.
Yeah, it was pretty grueling in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my problem with it was that like it started out fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was quick to like set up characters, I think, and then it was quick to establish everyone's relationships with each other. And it was quick getting to the whole big plot of it.
Yeah.
And then after that, it just kind of came to a standstill.
Mm-hmm.
That yeah, I agree with you guys that it definitely was a little long and boring.
It was a bit confusing in the beginning.
Yeah.
The transitions weren't very smooth. I couldn't tell when they were in the past and when they were in the present.
Yeah, because I mean, I started to get what they were doing. You know, they would show it from Bryony's perspective, and then they would show it from the real perspective.
Yeah.
But they don't really establish that right off the bat, and it's pretty jarring transitions. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't think that really worked very well for me, because a lot of the time it was more distracting than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually one point I did want to bring up to talk about was maybe compare that to other movies that try messing with the movie timeline a little bit.
I read through all your notes, and I know one of them was the Bad Times at the El Royale.
Yeah, the two I had that I guess I'm most familiar with would be Pulp Fiction and Bad Times at the El Royale, where those sort of do it at a very large scale, where the entire movie you're piecing together all these different perspectives to get the full story. And this one did it at such a small scale that it just seemed pointless to me.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I much would have rather had it so it showed, like, Bryony's perspective, played through that up until, you know, the big transition when they jumped ahead.
Yeah.
And then maybe found a way to backtrack it to show what really happened. Because I would have, you know, once we get to spoilers, we can talk about it a little bit more. But, like, I would have liked to honestly think that Bryony was right right off the get-go.
Until the end.
Until a certain point when they decide, okay, now you see what really happened.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that makes you a lot more emotionally invested in what happens to him from then on.
Yeah.
Because at first I wanted to be rooting for him. Or, like, saying, like, yeah, he got what he deserved.
Yeah.
You know.
You just knew.
Yeah, but you know, they tell you right off the bat basically what happened, so.
Well, it's almost like it doesn't really know what it wants to be. Because it starts off with the drama of her false accusation, and then for an hour it's just a generic romance movie, and then it goes back to the drama out of nowhere.
Well, and then it also tries to be like a war movie too.
Yeah.
It felt very much like a war movie.
It's like he wanted to make a war movie, spent all his budget, and then realized that he didn't have enough to make any, like, continue with it. So
Have
he's
any
like,
combat in it.
so then he's like, all right, let's make it a romance.
Let's get Keira Knightley. She's cheap.
I actually kind of liked that, though, the romance transition into war, and
Yeah.
Well,
that's kind of clear.
I think it was meant to kind of ground the situation a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
So I guess one of the other things I wanted to talk about that doesn't really involve spoilers is one thing I really liked was the music. I usually tend to not pay too much attention to music unless it's a movie where it's really in your face, like Blade Runner or something where you can't get away from it. But I thought it was really good in this, especially the leitmotif for Bryony. Is that how you say the girl's name?
Bryony.
Right.
Bryony? Fucking stupid name.
I kind of like that name. Thank you very much. If we have a daughter, I want to name her Bryony.
I don't know. It kind of sounds like it's like you're describing something as being Bryony. Like
Yeah,
something Brian
like
would
some
do.
gross soup.
No,
It's really Brian.
It's something that Brian would do.
Fucking Brian.
I did.
But yeah, I thought her motif was really good. Especially, it was really present at the beginning, and then it kind of faded away
Like everything
towards
else.
the end. Yeah. That was a lot. Did anyone else have any other non-spoiler things to bring up?
Not really. I mean,
Would the typewriter be
as
a
far
spoiler?
as like the transitions and the motifs of it.
I think we would have to go into spoilers. Though.
Spoilers for
Go
that?
into that.
Okay, never mind.
The only other two things, I guess, non-spoiler I had was holy shit, a cast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know you kind of
didn't
touched on it, Sureyya,
realize
earlier,
that
but
Benedict Cumberbatch was in this movie.
yeah, people just kept popping up.
And fucking Theon Greyjoy was in it.
Yeah, Alfie Allen, the Saoirse Ronan, when she's really
the
young.
main character, though.
Yeah,
And
but
I mean, she played in Lovely Bones.
Alright, well, we don't need to talk about the Lovely Bones.
Thank you.
That movie's ass.
The movie was so sad.
Did you like that movie?
No.
Okay. Oh, thank God.
No, Macy knows. I couldn't get through it.
We got through like 15 minutes. I think we got to the part where she was going down the.
Yeah, I was like,
Oh.
I don't want to
Shut it
watch
off.
this. I don't
Yeah.
want to watch little girl die. Like, that sounds bad.
Oh.
But you get sincere
Spoiler
acting Mark Wahlberg, which is always good. Like when he's in The Happening. So I had that, and then also I thought that it was really well shot.
Yeah, I mean, that was honestly my only real favorite part about the movie was like the locations and the shots
Yeah.
were fucking beautiful.
Yeah, it was really
Oh.
gorgeous.
Have you seen
The
Pride and
lighting, too.
Prejudice?
No.
No.
I like the lighting.
I also
Just,
thought the lighting
you know,
was good.
sometimes you can get different moods from different lightings and stuff.
Yeah.
They had it spot on.
Well, yeah, I noticed they did a lot of focus on that sort of thing. Like when he was handing her the letter, Bryony the letter,
Yep.
and you know the sun was like they had the contrasts up so high, so the letter was just this white kind
Yeah.
of glowing thing.
I found the lighting a little distracting at some parts. Like there was one scene where he's in front of that movie that's playing, and like his face is completely lit out of nowhere. It just doesn't really make sense how that's happening,
Yeah,
but it's more just framing.
the other heavy-handedness was when Bryony found the pin on the floor and she was following that.
Oh, and it was like shiny. It was
Well,
like-
and it was that, and then she walks into the room and just it seemed like so artificial.
yeah, we'll go into that later though. That's spoiler talk. Which I guess we are ready for spoilers,
I don't think
unless
there's
anyone else any other non-spoiler things to talk about.
I don't think there's
No.
much to talk about that isn't really like spoiler free.
Yeah, I think so too. So sorry, you brought up the typewriter.
I read, like I said, I looked at your notes, and you were asking, like, what does the typewriter mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the typewriting sound. And I thought of this, like, when I saw it, and I was like, maybe the typewriter scenes are, like, what she's writing in her book.
Yeah. So, because at the end of the movie, you go through the whole thing, and then you find out that it's her telling the story of what happened,
Yes.
and it's sort of
It's her atonement.
yeah. God, so fucking stupid.
Oh, there she said it.
And yeah, I had wrote down the typewriter question of why it kept popping up before that had been revealed. But I did find it interesting how it really only came up at the scenes with Bryony, whatever.
Well, I mean, there was a scene with James McAvoy writing his
Yeah, but it would come
"In
up.
my dreams I kiss your sweet."
What? No,
cum."
but this
Yeah.
is more like the transition periods and stuff like that.
No.
Yeah, it kept coming up with like transitional music when there was no typewriter on screen. Like when it switched to Bryony as the nurse,
Yeah.
there was a lot of typewriter noise, and that's kind of what kept sticking out to me. And so I'm wondering if, since it is just that she's writing the book, if you guys think that there is anything deeper to the typewriter popping up, or if it is just sort of a cheeky ass little plug-in for the fact that she's typing a book.
I think it's at the surface that's what it is. I mean, otherwise it's just a bit of a motif, I think, to kind of put you in her scene, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed it popping up at times of heightened distress, I guess you could say. You
Yeah.
know?
Okay.
Well,
And that's when it would start. I would hear the typing
And
is
it-
when things got interesting.
And it can be used more as just an emotional piece too. You know, how there was the scene when it was the typewriter was building with the in time with the music, you know, faster and faster because it's just supposed to basically raise tension.
Okay.
I think it served the same purpose as most scores do.
Mm-hmm.
I think of it as kind of like phrasing for me.
Okay.
Like maybe and you were saying you're all saying that it's kind of like points of transition.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's like her finishing a chapter and starting a new chapter in her life.
Okay.
Her book.
Okay.
So I can see where you guys are coming from though.
I guess while we're talking about Bryony, I just like to say fuck Bryony.
Yeah, fuck her.
She's pretty awful as a character.
Yeah, I started to like her during the middle part, the transition stuff, like when she was like a nurse.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when like she's recapping everything, I'm like, well, okay, actually, fuck you again. I don't.
Yeah. When really, besides the framing of this being a book without us knowing it till the end, I really didn't see the point for her character to stick around after accusing James McAvoy. Because it leaned so heavily into the romance and him being in war and her having to wait for him that when Bryony came back in, I just didn't care. And I didn't see why she needed that little B plot of wanting to redeem herself.
Yeah, I felt like at that point it was just she was basically a vessel for the story to be told, and that's it.
Yeah.
Jumping to the end, I don't even think she was really trying to make up for what she did. It seemed like throughout the entire movie she was just self-serving.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was trying to make herself feel better, like
Yeah.
she fixed everything in post, even though.
Yeah. So that makes me really hate her.
Yeah, and I mean, what a natural talent for stumbling on sex scenes that you shouldn't be seeing. Because she stumbled on 2 within an hour.
Yep.
Because she
did.
saw James McAvoy boning Keira Knightley, and then found Benedict Cumberbatch raping a minor.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, I wish they would have given a little bit more exposition into that.
Yeah.
Because they ended up getting married.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like,
it was really weird.
was it really rape?
Well, I mean,
It was because she didn't know who he was at the time.
Yeah.
She didn't
Okay.
see him when she was.
Yeah.
Okay.
because I mean, you could see she was trying, her whole bit was she was trying to act like the adult, and
Yeah.
everything. She was giving him the creepy looks, just like he was giving her the creepy
That was
looks
a weird
Yeah.
scene.
in that one scene. But I mean, again, she's a minor and she still didn't know what was happening.
Okay.
You know.
She supposedly didn't see his face.
But it basically seems like as soon as she turned like 18 or 19,
They just got married.
yeah,
Yeah.
which
Yeah, that's true.
they made it sound like, oh, that he married her so that way he couldn't be accused of anything.
Yeah, which was also really weird seeming. Because you would think after 5 years and a man already being sentenced and punished for it, you'd kind of think you got away with it.
Yeah, and you'd think you would just cut your losses and get out of there. Like, why would you stick around?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really bizarre. That whole like C plot just was really odd.
And I think that's this movie's biggest flaw is it kept trying to draw out all these other like little bits of information and plots, but it didn't like focus on them enough to really make them matter.
Yeah.
Right, and it didn't give any conclusion either
Nope.
to a lot of this.
Which I guess kind of leads into one of the tangential subjects I wanted to talk about. Was I find it interesting, and sorry, this is where I bring up her. Looking, because I think this movie is as much a romance as it is drama. And I find it really interesting with romance movies like this, or The Reader, which I brought up earlier. I guess even kind of The Notebook, which is a big one.
I haven't seen The Notebook.
Is sort of, I don't understand the obsession with romance movies to have like these epic long storylines. Right? Like the story of this movie's over the course of 5 years. And I don't see why romance movies like to do that so much. And I don't think it is nearly as effective as something like Her, where the entire story is over the course of 6 months to a year. Because when you have a movie like this, I never bought the romance between James McAvoy and Keira Knightley.
No.
You never see it happen. It's just you have the characters tell you it's happening, and then you see the hardships of it, but you don't see it develop. You don't see them actually connect or come closer over time.
Like if we were gonna focus on that romance, I would have liked to see it leading up before this movie.
Yeah.
Like because obviously there was a lot of history there that they just totally glazed over.
Yeah.
And I kept seeing reviews talking about how they were, had such chemistry, and I was like, I didn't see it.
No.
All their scenes were awful. It felt like they were recording lines in separate rooms.
Yeah.
And just repeating them one after the other.
Yeah, but I think the reason why so many of these movies are drawing towards long plot lines is because they cater to people that want to try and still find hope. So, like, say, like, oh, I had this falling out a couple years ago, whatever, but it doesn't matter. Time won't stop love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And romance movies really are trying to grab on to people that are desperate and hopeful for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I did kind of like how they dragged it on, because this was essentially a butterfly effect. Like, things could have gone so much differently and so much better, and I think they had to show down the line, this whole thing 5 years later is still haunting them and following them, because it's essentially just a butterfly effect. It starts with the note and then on and
snowballs into something.
Yeah, I mean, I do
really
agree. I guess
bad,
they do
yeah.
have to show the effects of it. And, how even though she ended up making up the scene where she went to visit them and he was back, in London, I kind of wish that would have been real, and I would have liked to see more in-depth insight into his, like, post-war, like, mental state.
Mm-hmm.
Because he seemed a lot more unhinged, and I think it would have been a lot more interesting for Bryony to see that she created,
like a monster.
she created this person that wasn't, I forgot, what was his name again?
Robbie?
Yeah,
Robbie.
She created this version of Robbie that, was only there because of her.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to see how it tore a hole in the relationship between Robbie and Cecilia.
Yeah.
I think that would have been a lot more interesting to me to see, like, how her affect, like, Bryony's decisions, even if he got out okay, he got through the war, it still, like, just changed him as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that points to the good point you made, Macy, where it's like the stretching it out works very well for a drama, but it spends so much time on the romance that it's not enough of a drama, really, because it just doesn't focus enough on it.
I have a question for you guys. What did you guys think of, like, the intermittent, like, narration, I guess? So, like, where he's talking about the story resumes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just him saying the story resumes.
Oh,
over
that
and over?
was his letters that he was writing to Cecilia.
No, it didn't feel like a letter though.
That's what they were, though. I mean, that narration that was going on with Cecilia's narration and his narration, like, come back to me, etc., like those kind of repeating motifs.
Yeah.
Those were representative of the letters they were writing each other.
It just didn't feel like it was a letter.
It's because this movie doesn't know how to write dialogue. That's the problem. You're not wrong. You're both right. It's just that's what they are, but they're shit.
Okay, all right. Because he was saying it, and I was like, what the fuck does this mean?
Yeah.
I'm not getting anything from this.
Yeah.
Which
And
is,
it just didn't make any sense to me.
like the scene when, like, Robbie was freaking out and yelling at Bryony. Cecilia was trying to calm him down, saying, like, come back to me and all that.
Yeah.
That's what Bryony was giving her those words, because that wasn't a real scene.
Oh. Okay.
So I think it's just she's almost like coming up with these narratives on what she thinks they were saying and would be saying and how they would behave with each other based on, like, the letters that they wrote to each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
because she wasn't really part of their lives at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess while we're talking about the ending too, then, what did you guys think about not only the reveal that it was all written, but the fact that Cecilia and Robbie both died, completely separated from each other?
I'm on one hand, I'm happy to see the protagonists die. Complete turnaround. It's not a happy. Everyone fucking. He came back from the war. They lived happily ever after. But it's also, I think, a real heavy-handed, like, way of trying to put in some shock value.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm gonna make you feel things because now they're dead. Now, all this stuff matters.
Mm-hmm.
And I hated the whole, oh, this is future Bryony when she's old, writing
Yeah.
her book. It's
Yeah.
like, god damn it just took me out of the whole fucking thing.
It's
Yeah.
Titanic all over
It's
again.
it's like Titanic but worse.
Well, I think that's kind of where I fell on it. Was just that, to me, it was almost anti-refreshing having them die. Like, because it's just, I feel like any of these goddamn romance movies where one of them's a soldier, that's just always how it ends
Well,
up.
it's
Is they
because-
die apart and they loved each other till the end.
Because the cliche used to be that, they lived happily ever after.
Yeah.
So now people are like, we're going to do the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And now everyone's doing it, which is why, like, I would have liked it if he did survive, he came back, but he was a totally different person from there on out.
Which is almost, and it really made me think about, like, the old melodramas, like the black and white melodramas and tragedies, where it was, every single one ended with, like, the wife would suddenly get a disease where she's going to go blind and then die, but she acts like she's fine so her husband doesn't have to worry. Because it was like, you have Robbie die on the beaches of Dunkirk, the last day of evacuations. You have Keira Knightley drown in a bunker when the water main breaks. And then you also have Bryony have some terrible dementia where she's going to get endless seizures until she dies. It's like every single character just had some ridiculously awful outcome for them.
I'm mad that Bryony lived.
I was also
And the
mad
other
that
two.
Bryony was
They should have had their happily ever after. Because that's what she was all about. Bryony was all about that classic romance and stuff. And I think she actually had a thing for Robbie, too.
Well, she even admitted
she
it.
definitely
Yeah.
did.
And especially that scene when she threw herself into the water.
Well, and I think that scene was a prime example of the worlds that, you know, she was all about like literature and plays and writing and stories and all that stuff. And she was young. I think she got caught up in this whole idealized version of what romance is, you know, and, you know, to her, she's like, oh, maybe he'll save me and then fall in love with me. That type of, you know, young fantasy.
And it's actually stupid and fucking dangerous.
Yeah. And like she was seeing all these like little bits of like scenes, like looking out the window, you know, and she's so like wrapped up in her stories and dramas, and where everything has to have some kind of deeper, intricate meaning, that she pieced together this story about how he was like, you know, attacking her and harassing her and all that stuff. So she's like, you know, I'm gonna be the fucking dramatic, you know, good guy and send him away. You know, and I feel like that was her biggest like fallacy, was that she was so wrapped up in this like these fantasy worlds of her writing or books.
And I think her kind of having a thing for him also made her decide to accuse him too. Not only her seeing the letters and walking in on him and her, but also jealousy and, you know, just wanting that maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, I think it's just going off of, you know, you read all these old stories and stuff about how, you know, if she does all these dramatic things, things will turn out good in the end, and, you know, she'll get what she wants, and she's saving the day. When in reality, the whole like rest of the movie seemed to be like her realizing that what real life really was like, and how all these horrible things happened, you know, and they didn't always turn out in the end.
Because it was supposed to be, her life was supposed to be her fantasy, but she ended up ruining somebody else's.
So yeah, I mean, I think that was probably one of the most in-depth scenes in the entire movie. That really like gave insight to her character. The rest of them were just her starting to realize, you know, that what reality is. I mean, she even admitted to not going back to try and talk to her sister to atone. You know, she wrote a book at the end after everybody was dead. She even admitted not having the courage to go, like, fess up.
That's why I hate writers, man. They're all awful.
Yeah.
And then, Marty, you did bring it up briefly, but I also wanted to talk about how randomly heavy-handed the movie got. Especially when Robbie was at Dunkirk and he randomly found that French movie. And it was lingering for so long.
What French movie?
The one where it was being projected for all the soldiers, and he just stood in front of it, and they were making out, and it just would not drop it. And it was like, we get it. He misses the love of his life. Move the fuck on.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about when he's walking in the fields and he just sees all those girls lying down.
Oh, that also is.
Well, and that's why I wanted him to have all this PTSD shit at the end. That way he would be able to go into, because they built all this character for him, and then they're just like, nah, he died actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
But as far as like the heavy-handedness, like the Dunkirk scene when he's walking on the beach, I mean, I throw in like a long continuous shot. You know, mix it up.
Which was good. It was a good shot.
It was good, but near the end, like, it was getting to be almost too long. Like, once they stopped, they walked up the stairs, and they panned back over the beach. And you could see like the Ferris wheel in the distance. They held on that shot for like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
I didn't really see a point of that shot.
Yeah, that's what I was about to bring up. It was
more for like atmosphere and like a scenic kind of deal.
But just, what was the point? And especially because like it was almost doing it as if it was like establishing that location, and that was the focus. But then you weren't at that location long enough for it to really be that established.
Yeah.
No, because from that point on, you're in the bar, and then he went to the movie theater, then he went downstairs, and then he died.
Yeah, and then you just never saw everyone on the beach again. Probably because they couldn't afford that many extras for the second day.
Well, because like that's the thing like about Dunkirk is, it was a dramatic situation in real life, and they were obviously it's already been captured on from Dunkirk, but so it's like they were trying to build that up because the thing is the Germans were coming for them, and if they didn't evacuate, they were all going to die.
Yeah,
and so there was a lot of drama, and they showed like all these people who basically gave up. Half of them were like jumping around just being stupid. The other half were sitting there like starting to realize their fate. And so again, they were starting to build it up like a war movie almost, like make you realize the gravity of the situation, and then they just abandoned it.
Yeah, which was another.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Could you see him dying? Like.
James McAvoy?
Yeah, if watching the movie with fresh, clean eyes, could you see James McAvoy dying?
Yeah, I assumed he was going to from the beginning.
Okay, because they do kind of hint that he's going to die because he opens his shirt when he's looking at the postcards and he's got a bullet hole.
Yeah, I can't remember what they said he died from.
It was like
septicemia.
So I guess it got infected.
And it infected his blood.
Yeah, so I mean, I could kind of see that too, especially once he was starting to get delirious.
Yeah, I mean, once he showed the wound on his chest, I was like, okay, this fucker's gonna die. No way he's getting out of here.
So it wasn't a complete shock for you.
No, not at all. I was more shocked when he was alive.
Yeah.
And he made it home. I was like, wait, how the fuck did he get home? But so another connection I wanted to make to this movie, from this movie and again to the reader, was I found it interesting how both movies and quite a few other romance movies sort of appropriate the horrors of war in a weird way. Because like this one, there's no combat in it, from what I remember.
No.
Like you never see a gunshot or anything. But there's
Except the horses.
except the poor horses. But there's just a shit ton of gore.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like the part where he finds all the dead children. There's all the people at the hospital that are just horribly. Yeah,
the
you
hole in
see a
his head.
dude's brain.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Again. Those children.
Yes.
Did they all kill themselves, or did someone kill them?
I think it looked like a school or something. Or,
Yeah.
But it looked like they were all shot in the head, though.
I think it was one of those like Germans were coming. Teachers
they
probably.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay.
That's how
Okay.
I interpreted it.
All right.
Yeah, I find it interesting how, because then in The Reader, which spoilers for The Reader, I guess, whoever the fuck's watching that, there's a lot of like really graphic descriptions of Holocaust actions, and one of the characters doing these terrible things to Jewish people. And I just find it weird that these movies that are supposed to be romances seem to have such a fetish for including just terrible gore and war in them for no reason.
I think it's shock value.
Like, I just don't... Like, what did it add to this movie? All that gore.
It added the potential for an interesting plot line.
But there's no plot
and
line,
for-
so what's the point?
And for interesting character development. And then
Yeah.
That they didn't use.
they built his character up more and more over the entire movie, and it got so much more interesting.
Yeah.
And for nothing. Which, I mean, maybe that's a subplot, that's a subpoint, saying that, like, like war basically destroys all these potentials, but, like, no, that's not what they're going for.
You don't have an ending like this, if that's what you're going for.
No, so.
And, yeah, I guess maybe what it could be, too, is just it's such an easy way to make people emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't see things like that and not feel bad for those people or think, wow, that's really fucked up. That dude has a hole in his head and I can see his brain.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were about to say something?
I don't know if it's really relevant, but I was going to say, could you see it as a parallel as her atonement not really meaning anything now that Cecilia and Robbie are dead? It doesn't.
I think that's overreaching a little bit.
Okay.
I would say so, too.
Like, I would like it for that to be there, but...
Okay.
I just don't think there's enough of a connection
Okay.
No,
for that to work.
Wait, what connection?
Between Bryony's failure to atone for fucking over Robbie and all the gore, sort of connecting, showing that it was meaningless in the end. It didn't do anything.
I think a lot of it's just cheap filmmaking.
Yeah, which is frustrating.
Because it
Honestly.
was a good story.
I see this.
I liked the story and the betrayal, and I did like the war stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't like the end, but I liked the movie. I think it could have been played out a lot better. I definitely, like you said earlier, wanted to see more of the romance development because I couldn't tell pretty much throughout the whole movie, like, if they actually even liked each other.
No, she seemed like she was annoyed by him, and then she's like, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now that your dick's in me, I love you.
That really kind of got us, well, especially after he wrote those nasty words to her. You know, I was like, I kind of didn't like him at the beginning. I didn't like him at all.
Well, then I think that would bring us back to Marty's point where you want to see the development between them before this movie.
Right.
Because they knew each other in school, so something might have happened where she didn't. Because they talk about how she didn't talk to him for like 3 years.
Yeah,
And
what's
then-
up with that?
Yeah.
You know?
But like, you're not. It's easy to not like him in the beginning. If they would have played with the whole idea of us not knowing and making us think that he was the one that raped, that girl, like that would have been so much more powerful because we could have believed it at that point.
Yeah.
You know, like only show us Bryony's perspective and basically still give us that letter. You know, make him seem like he's this piece of shit, like Bryony thought he was, and then, show it later, reveal it all later, what really happened. I think it would have been a lot more powerful.
But that would be emotionally complex, Marty.
Oh yeah, it's simpler though. It's easier to film when you just do one plot and then go back.
So I guess the whole point of this movie is, parents, make sure you teach your kids about sex.
Yes. And if you're a guy, use cunt in love letters.
Yeah.
It works 100%.
100% of the time. I can personally attest.
Yeah, I thought she was gonna just leave him after that. I thought, wow, there's no way this bitch is gonna fall in love with this guy after reading a disgusting letter like that.
Yeah, it's just so many movies are just such a waste. Like they build up so much potential and they have good, powerful scenes that could really work towards something, and then they're just like, nah, I actually don't want to go in that direction. I want to go in this other direction that has no fucking foundation under it. It's like every fucking time.
Yeah.
Because now I have to read the book, because I bet the book's good. I bet they just kind of fucked the movie up a bit.
Well,
Books tend to be better than the movies,
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel.
Well, sometimes you get a really good director that can just do it.
Like, Denis Villeneuve?
Yeah.
Blade Runner?
Not a... Second one's not based off a book, but...
But still. But he's doing,
Dune.
Dune.
Which isn't
So-
out yet, so we'll see how that turns out. But Arrival was based off a short story.
I haven't read it. I don't read, so.
I would say Kubrick, too. A lot of his movies are better than the books.
Okay.
Like The Shining. The movie's better.
and certain stories are better once they have
I mean-
visuals.
Yeah.
Shining Stephen King. Stephen King's not the greatest writer.
That's a conversation for another podcast. Does anyone have any closing thoughts on Atonement?
Nope, I think I covered all the bases that I want to talk about.
So I guess our usual tradition. So the movie was $30 million to make.
Must have been
And
for all the horses they killed.
they had to shoot that scene 5 times. They killed 40 horses. Very expensive. And then its worldwide lifetime gross was $129.2 million. So it made
I mean,
4 times its money, hand over fist. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then for the ratings,
Probably everyone in Britain.
probably fucking Brits. And then for its final ratings, IMDb has it at a 7.8. Rotten Tomatoes has it at an 83%. Metacritic has it at an 85.
I don't know if I would agree with those.
Yeah. What would you guys all put it at?
I'd give it a 7 to an 8.
7 to an 8?
Yeah.
Macy?
But I'm a little biased.
Probably a 7.
7? Okay. Marty?
6.
I think I'd give it a 4. 4 or 5. Probably a 5. It wasn't bad. I would call it probably painfully average. Would kind of be how I'd come down on it.
So, I give it what it has because whoever was the art director for it, the finding the scenes and making the shots happen.
Yeah.
I like those a lot. I think they're really, really beautiful, really great.
Yeah. I think my only issue with it would be that it is beautiful, but there's no real point to the cinematography. I don't feel like.
And I don't feel like that's a fault of the film director as much as the
whoever was the actual director. You know?
Yeah. Definitely.
So, I'm seeing this, and this movie's based off a book written by Ian McKellen, and he's one of the screenwriters.
Oh shit, yeah, he is.
So.
Oh god. Oh my god, he's a weird looking dude.
Oh my.
So if you're saying that this movie didn't have the greatest like writing to it,
Yes.
what would you think his book is like then? If you were to read his book that this movie is based off.
It's probably spot on.
Yeah,
Especially since he had some like input into the writing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would think it's probably a convoluted ass book with how he wrote the script. Honestly.
Okay. Well, now I kind of want to read it.
That is your prerogative. So then this is the last of our drama rotation, our first drama rotation. So now we can vote for our favorite of the three. Macy, you can vote if you've seen them. I don't know if you have. But so we started off with The Graduate.
Mm-hmm.
Marty, what was your movie?
Rear Window.
Hitchcock classic. Sureyya?
Atonement.
And Atonement.
I am torn.
So Macy, I don't know if you've seen those other two,
Yeah,
so
but-
maybe you can't cast a vote. But
That's all right.
I think I would probably go Atonement, Rear Window, Graduate. Personally,
Like 3-1.
yeah, 3-1. I think The Graduate was my favorite.
I think that
I'm a little biased because I picked it, and I did that too with District 9 back in the sci-fi rotation. But
yeah, I liked The Graduate the best too, but I honestly think that and Rear Window are just in such different categories.
yeah,
Because I liked The Graduate because it was funny and it was engaging.
mm-hmm.
But I think Rear Window was a lot more, I guess, on the psychological side of the drama. As
Oh
it
yeah,
was. So,
definitely.
yeah, but I would probably have the same ranking as you, I guess, just because I enjoyed watching The Graduate more.
Yeah. So are you ready over there?
No, I'm not. I have no idea what I would put. Like, I don't know.
Well, do you have a clear number 3?
No. I don't have a clear anything. I have no clear ordering of these movies because I'm like super biased towards Atonement because I really liked it watching it this time, even though it definitely had some problems, and I really want to put that as number 1. But I was thinking back to the Rear Window, and I really liked Rear Window.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd put Graduate 3rd,
Okay.
and then maybe Atonement 2nd, and then Rear Window 1st.
So you're putting Hitchcock first.
Yeah.
All right. So then I guess Graduate would win this
Yeah.
rotation, then Rear Window, then Atonement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Look at that.
Next week is...
Do we get to do our wheel?
No, that's next week. Because
'Cause
next week we're going to be doing
Discussion.
our round table.
Yes.
So 3 random subjects, and then we'll reveal the next genre that we're doing.
I lost the subject that I wanted to talk about.
You forgot it?
Yeah.
Oh well, you got time. I just like the wheel. It's my favorite part. The tension, the suspense.
I mean, we maybe could do the wheel this week.
That's okay.
Well, actually, no, we should do the wheel this week because I need to pick the movie for next week.
That's true.
So we do need to do the wheel.
Yes.
Oh, fuck. I got to set it up.
Wheel of Pain.
Fill time.
Sorry,
Sorry, I scat with him.
I can't scat.
Just
I'm
try.
a scat man.
Steven Tyler over here.
All right, so as I'm typing these up, just so everyone knows, the genres we have are sci-fi fantasy as one genre, horror, action, romance, superhero, thriller, comedy, drama, animated, musical, and foreign.
And porno.
And porno. I'm going to take drama out because we just did drama, so that we don't get that one again.
We have to watch feature-length porno.
Feature-length pornos.
It's a
Only
feature-length porno.
Like,
the Pokemon parody is feature-length, I believe. 2 Girls, 1 Cup is feature-length. All the parody stuff and the real gross fetish shit. All right, Sureyya, you don't get to look.
Because I would have had the perfect movie. I forgot. It's not a porno. It's like a legit film, but like There's a lot of
Is it
sex in it.
Nymphomaniac?
No.
Part 1 and 2 by Lars von
man.
Trier.
I don't remember what it's called.
Have you heard of that movie?
No.
It is legitimately 2 movies that are each like 2.5 hours long about 2 women that are on a train and they have a bet of who can get the most dick before they get to the next station.
Wow.
And all the scenes were real sex when
But
they filmed
what if they have to do it, but they have to go take a test afterwards, and no pregnancy, no STDs.
But yeah, and it's all real. It's just a porno, but they saw it as a movie. So we have a bit of an issue with the randomized list.
Okay.
The randomizer we use just lists the 10 categories from 1 through 10, so I usually just take number 1. Do we want to kick out superhero and sci-fi fantasy since we already did those rotations recently?
Yes.
Maybe get rid of the superhero part, because sci-fi fantasy could include still a lot of stuff. You know what I mean?
So you're saying keep in sci-fi fantasy, get rid of superhero?
Yeah.
Sureyya, you're saying we should not do either.
Yes.
Macy, what do you think?
Well, because either could include, like, do we have anything else to cover, like, the sci-fi kind of bases? You know, like, futuristic dystopian stuff, like you mentioned Blade Runner, like, that would count as a sci-fi fantasy, right?
Yeah, it's either anything science fiction, anything fantasy, either one. They're just grouped together.
Yeah, see, I think we should keep that, because that still opens up, like, a lot of doors.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we're going to eventually do all of these multiple times.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if we already want to start redoing them, or if we should kind of give them time to breathe.
Did we do sci-fi fantasy?
We did
Yeah.
fantasy.
Oh, I guess we did.
We did. That was the first one we did.
Yeah,
Science fiction.
we can take that up for now. We can come back to it later, man.
Okay, because that was the one that got number 1. So if we get rid of that,
Yeah.
I'm not happy about what we got.
You could always reroll for a new number 1 if you take that out of the
I hope
equation.
it's a good one.
Musicals.
Fuck yes! Yes!
So for next week,
Yes!
I will pick a musical for us to watch.
Cats.
And I swear to fuck, Sureyya, if you make us watch Rent, I am leaving the channel. And you guys will not
No,
have
I'm
an
gonna
editor.
make you watch The King and I.
That's fine. I don't want to fucking watch Rent.
Oh wait, no. I don't know yet.
You know what? Maybe
Oh,
let's
I know.
watch Rent so I can bitch about it for an hour and a half.
I like Friend. Fuck you.
Does that mean you have to pick one, Marty?
Yeah, that means we all have to pick one.
Cat.
I don't know about cats.
Les Miserables.
Yes!
Dude, that
All right.
movie is so long. I just
It's
can't.
so good.
I don't
It is
care.
good.
All right,
It
well,
actually is really
well, that's going to
good.
do it for this week. You can follow us on SoundCloud or iTunes as Deus Ex Cinema. You can find us on YouTube and Instagram as Default White Guys. Thanks for listening.